Hello everyone, welcome to Code Invasion. In this video, we'll learn how the map method in JavaScript works. The map method in JavaScript is an array method that executes a function on every element in an array and returns an array containing the results. This sounds a lot, so let's take an example. Let's say we have a numbers array as we do on our screen. If we want to add 10 to each number in the array without changing the original array, we can simply do this using the map method. So in order to do that, we would simply call the map method on our numbers array. So we type numbers.map. Now recall the map method returns an array, so we store the return value in a variable. Let's call this plus 10 const plus 10 equal to numbers.map. Again, remember that the map method executes a function on every element in the array. So let's define the function we want to execute on every element in our array. Let's call this function add 10 because we want to add 10 to every number in the array. A very important thing to know is that anytime we call the map method on an array, it loops over the array and executes the given function on every element in the array. Once it does this, it also provides the current element, the index of the current element, and the array as parameters to the function which has been passed into it. So in our function, which will pass to the map method, we can accept these values, right? So we accept the element, the index of the element, and the array itself as parameters. In most instances, we would only use the element, and in this case, we want to return element plus 10, right? Because we want to add 10 to it. Now all that's left is to pass the add 10 function into our map method, and then we'll save our file. Now before we run our file, in order to see our plus 10 variable, we'll log it to the console. So we'll type console.log plus 10, and then save our file and run our file in the terminal using node by typing node and then the file name, in this case index.js. We hit enter and boom, there we have it. We see each number in the numbers array incremented by 10, right? Now our original array, which is the numbers array, remains unchanged. Let's log it to the console to verify that. Let's rerun our file again with node, and boom, we can see that the numbers array, which was our original array, remains unchanged, right? However, the array returned by the map method, which we called plus 10, has been incremented. So we have it over here. Alright, so alternatively, we can move this function definition into the map method directly this way, right? And we'll still get the same results. So let's rerun our file again with node. Just before we do that, let's save our file, and then in our terminal, let's rerun it with node, and boom, we get the same results, right? So you can move the function definition into the map method directly and we would still get the same result. Now a more modern way of writing this is to use arrow functions. For those of us who don't know what arrow functions are, they are simply a concise way of writing JavaScript functions without the function keyword. So this is what they look like, right? So this is what an arrow function in JavaScript looks like. So in order to write the code above using arrow functions, we would have something like this: const plus 10 equals numbers we'll call our map method on it, and we'll pass in our arrow function this way, right? Recall that the map method provides the element, index of the current element, and the array as parameters. However, in most scenarios, we would only use the element, and we can rename this element actually to anything we want. So in this case, we'll call it num, right? And in our function body, we would return num plus 10, like we did in the previous example. Now if we rerun our file again with Node, just before we do that, we'll save it, and if we rerun our file with Node, we'll get the same result. Boom, there we have it, guys. So this is the much modern way of writing the map method using arrow functions. So for our second example, let's create an array of items, right? An array of persons. Let's call this const persons, right? And for each person, we'll have their name and age. So let's call this person John, right, who is 22 years, right? Now let's duplicate this line of code and let's change some of the values here. So let's say we want to get the ages, right, of every person in the array. We can simply do this using the map method, and this is what it will look like. We'll create our variable to store the ages array returned by the map method, and we'll have something like this using arrow functions. Now recall that the map method provides the current element as a parameter to the function, and we can rename this function. So we'll call it person. In our function body, we'll simply return person dot age. Now we'll log the ages array to the console, right, because the map method retains an array. So ages, if we hit, let's clear our terminal and let's hit Node. Before we do that, let's save our file and then index.js. Boom, there we have it. You see the ages of each person in the array. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.